Hey, what's up, street guys? Eric from the Eric Street Photography blog. So I wanted to give you a quick intro to zone focusing on a film rangefinder, a Leica, and so forth. So the first things first is, this is very difficult to describe. So I'm going to try to do my best to describe this. Okay, so if you've never seen this before, this is the zone focusing on a Leica. And all these numbers down here, it essentially looks like witchcraft, and honestly, intuitively, I don't think anyone has any idea what this means. So essentially what it means is this. So you see that little number on the bottom? Those numbers and markings here are all of your apertures. So you can see it goes from f16, f11, f8, f5.6, 2.8, and then this is the center point of focus. And there's different ways you could pre-focus your lens. And generally, and I'm just talking from experience with and it switches to manual focus. Okay. So generally speaking, there's different positions you could do. So if assuming your finger is in dead center, it's pre-focused to about 1.2 meters. And 1.2 meters is roughly 1.2, is about 2 arm lengths away. And that's the medium distance. If you're using your finger, you see this little finger here. This is in dead center, once again. That is roughly 1.2 meters. Assuming you take your finger and you focus this 45 degrees to the right, that's far distance. And you know that's far distance because it's pre-focused to about 3 meters to 5 meters. And that means that if you're shooting at f8, so you see my aperture on the top is at f8. What that means is everything from, you see this number down here, f8, from about 3 meters all the way to infinity is going to be in focus. And I'll include a diagram because it's a little bit easier to explain. And then assuming you take your finger once again, you take the tab, you focus it 45 degrees to the left, then you're at close distance, which is roughly about, you can see it's about 1 meter, and that's about 1 arm length away. So when you're shooting street photography, generally what I recommend is focus by feel. So if your finger on your lens is pre-focused to the dead center, that means everything in the middle, the medium distance, is going to be in focus. If your finger is 45 degrees to the right, that's far distance. Everything about 5 meters to infinity will be in focus. And then if your finger is 45 degrees to the left, then everything close distance, about 1 arm length away, is going to be in focus. So generally the biggest mistake that we make in street photography is this. We take the camera and then we bring it up to our eyes, then we waste all this time focusing with our fingers, trying to get what's in focus, and that's a huge waste of time. Essentially what you want to do is before you see the decisive moment, you quickly pre-focus your finger and your lens to a certain distance. So assuming somebody is about 2 arm lengths away, which is roughly 1.2 meters or 4 feet away, then you already put your finger in the center, hold your camera up and click rather than holding up your camera and trying to fumble around with the focusing down here. And this is also another big myth when shooting with rangefinders or Leicas. Do not shoot street photography wide open at like f2 or 1.4 or whatever. That's stupid. That's only used to capture more bokeh or shallow depth of field. I think that's really good for shooting portraits when you actually have the time for it. But if you want to capture the decisive moment in street photography, f8 to f16, assuming you're shooting with a digital Leica, like a new Leica, digital Leica, any of them, I'd recommend shooting aperture priority mode. You can see I'm shooting with a film Leica, so this kind of doesn't really apply. And then just set it to f8. Set your ISO relatively high to 1600 or even 3200, and then let your camera decide the shutter speed itself. Assuming you're shooting with a film camera, so currently I have some Kodak Portra 400 in here, and you can see my meter is actually set here in the back to 400, and if you actually look inside the camera, you can't really see it, sorry, but essentially when I'm shooting street photography, I'll keep my camera always at f8. I never change this, and the only thing I'll change, and I know that I'm shooting at ISO 400, I only change my shutter speed according to how bright it is outside, and then of course the other factor you change is adjusting the focus. And once again, the purpose of zone focusing, of course if you're shooting street photography on a manual lens, that's your essentially your only option. Or if you're shooting with a camera that has a really old autofocusing system, it's not very fast or accurate. Otherwise, I would just recommend to use autofocus. And generally speaking, depending on the type of lenses you use, it's going to change the depth of field. So you can see I'm shooting with a 35mm lens, which is f2 Summicron spherical lens. It's probably the best street photography lens for assuming you're shooting with a Leica or a film camera or a manual focusing camera. It's really sharp. It's very expensive, but it's really well built and very sharp. And generally speaking, the wider your lens is, so assuming you're shooting with a 35mm lens, a 28mm lens, or even a 24mm lens, the wider your lens is, the more depth of field you're going to have, which is good in street photography because I think in street photography, it's better to have your photo sharp and in focus than out of focus. And by shooting at f8 to f16, and you could also see that if you're shooting at f8 to f16, the higher your f-stop, like f8 to f16, the more your things are going to be in focus. So assuming I'm once again pre-focusing to about 1.2 meters in the center, if you're shooting at f16, so I'm switching my aperture to f16, everything from 16 all the way up here, all the way up to back here is going to be in focus. So pre-focus to 1.2 meters, everything from about 1 meter all the way up to 2 meters is going to be in focus. Whereas assuming, let's say you're shooting only at f4, let's say, right? Then you can see the number 4 down here. Then if you're pre-focused at 1.2 meters, only things from about 1.3, 1.4 meters to 1.1, a little bit more than a meter is going to be in focus. So essentially, all you have to know is this. When you're shooting street photography, keep it between f8 and f16, or when in doubt, just f8 and be there. And so this is a basic introduction to shooting with a film Leica or Rangefinder or digital film, doesn't matter. Focus according to feel. Learn according to your finger. Depending on what position and degree this is in respect to your camera, how much it's to the left and to the right, learn to figure out what kind of distance this actually means. And the more you can internalize this, the better you'll get in your focusing in your street photography. And also I'll include a diagram. And once again, remember that if you're shooting street photography, don't just bring up the camera to your face and waste all this time trying to focus. Rather, learn how to focus by feel and shoot at f8 and hold it up. Click, be fast, capture the decisive moments. And remember, the most important thing in street photography is to keep clicking, keep taking risks, and I'll also include a diagram in the link below. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Never miss the decisive moment. And of course, smile, interact with your subjects, and be bold. Click, 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 click. And oh yeah, also, of course, I'm gonna promote my own stuffs too. So if you're interested in getting the best camera for street photography or the best equipment, I'd recommend getting the new Henri shoulder strap. It's quite possibly the most beautiful strap we made, and it comes in this beautiful crema brown color, and also comes in phantom black. And all the details in this strap are so beautiful. And our friend made these handmade for us. Just check out all these details. They're just so beautiful. Let's switch it to manual because I'm a newbie to video and I have no idea how these things work. So take a look at all these beautiful details in the strap. And it's quite possibly the most beautiful strap you could get if you're shooting with a Leica film or digital or Fuji, anything that allows you to connect to these lug nuts here. And also taking a look at the shoulder pad. So soft and so beautiful, and everything handmade from our friend Lan, who's an expert leather maker. And also, if you want to as well, the way to adjust the strap is currently there's this protective cover here, and if you just unleash that, you could easily just adjust the strap with the function here. Super simple. Okay. Alright, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Be bold. Click, click. And once again, apologies for my bad video skills. I'm still shooting this all in the Lumix G9 Pro and still learning it. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. More info in the link below. Peace out.